Hey, welcome back to Munro Live. Again, I'm here with Josiah and Carl, and now we're going to look at interiors. So I'm going to talk a lot less because I'm surrounded by interior experts. So let's start off right here with the polarizing BMW. So Carl, did you want to, seeing as you like the car, do you want to kick it off?
Well, I liked it when we were talking about the exterior. I'm a little more hesitant when we're talking about the interior. That faux suede interior, honestly, it's kind of interesting. It has a nice look to it. And if I was to put this in a showroom and just look at it, sure, that's fine. If I have to sit in that and use it every day, I'm a little bit more hesitant about doing that. Now, it has a lot of jewelry in this car. Now, I say that kind of oxymoronic. It's a simple design, but it has a lot of jewelry. The light pipe in the door, the lighting from the door to the exterior floor, the crystals in the switches, in the center control knob. There's a lot there that individually is unique. Together looks simple, other than those crystals. Those are just weird to me. But I think some of the style is a little boring. I mean, the rear seats are very, very flat and basic. I don't feel that comfortable in this vehicle. So I'm not certain that I do like this one. I mean, what are your thoughts?
So, from a stylistic standpoint, I think this is a really bold interior, and it's funny how we're totally flip-flopped on interior-exterior preferences. Because when I opened up the door, after getting past that exterior, I was shocked and pleasantly surprised with the interior of this. And I've read great things about it. It's BMW design, but the choices, like particularly the material, the suede finish, and then this, very intentional textile design that has, a little bit of reds and blues. It's interesting how well that's paired with the exterior of this car, actually. As you mentioned, the crystal knobs, really surprising. A few things that are off-putting about that is how seldom you're actually going to be adjusting your seat. Like, it is a little perplexing why they put so much focus on something that you so seldom touch. Where that changes, though, is the start-stop button, your mode selector, and your media switches here. So you still get that interesting crystal finish.
And
hopefully
that one I do like in the center console. The door seat switches are a little odd to me. That is the only piece of wood in the vehicle. Now, it does have haptic feedback for the switches. So the screen printed switch positions on there, when you touch them, there is a slight vibration so that you know that you've touched and activated a switch. But there's a few things that just seem odd. Like, look at those cup holders on the lower portion of the console. You have very little limited access. I mean, trying to lift up a cup and go around the upper portion of the console, it's going to be kind of awkward. The decorative bezels in the headrests, they sit proud of the seat. They're not recessed. For me, that hits directly on my spine. And I asked some of the shorter stature people within our company to sit in there, and it hits them in the middle of the head. So yes, it was a style choice, but when you're talking about people actually having to use this style, those things kind of fall in my mind.
All valid points. I think ergonomically, I'm literally the average human being, so it actually fits me pretty well. I think some of the choices that set this apart from their ICE vehicles are this pass-through here. I think that's a remnant from the experimental age of EV design, something we kind of concluded the last video with. And that is unusual. It's almost like a minivan interior in a brand that is otherwise very sport focused, and this is the driver's car, right? And then to open this up like this, a little bit like the Model 3, was kind of surprising to see. That said, like, sure, you can fit your backpack or shopping bag, whatever, in there, no problem. So it's nice to have that open. It just really emphasizes that you're sitting on top of the battery. If we had an e-tron GT or something, you wouldn't have the same effect, right? That's one of the most complicated shaped battery packs that I know of. I'm sure you guys have seen something even crazier, but the number of scallops and footwells and humps where the seats are, this is much more simple. It's flat. It almost cues up the autonomous driving, like the GM Cruise, flat floor, campfire seating. This is like the transition to that. This is the very beginnings of the transition to that.
So let's speculate a little bit. So you're mentioning that for a driver's car, it seems weird to have that space there. It's similar to what you would see in a minivan or an SUV where you have a motor and a trans completely forward and you can have that pass through. But in a sedan, you normally would not have that type of space. All right, so because this is a battery, you have that space, but it's a space that's not being used. So what would the alternative be? If this drivetrain with the battery is truly a sled that they can put different top hats on, then yes, you're always going to want to maintain that space for the passenger compartment because you don't know what configuration is going to be on top. But if you were to redesign this vehicle unique for this interior, then technically you could say maybe I could have moved something back into that space and given a frunk, because what would be more usable, a storage bin or a pass-through? But if it's going to be a sled that you don't know what top hat's going to be on it, you really don't want to move any of your mechanical components in there.
Yeah, I think what you can do instead is controlled usable factor. Something like a little cargo bin or something like that. Just something to divide up the footwells from the center console. Right now, I mean, you pointed out the sort of awkwardly low and distant location of the cup holders. If you just had some gates in here, I don't know who's actually passing through. Like it just seems like a feature that is more commonly used, as I already said, on a minivan, on a pickup truck, a work truck. Oh, I parked really close to the wall, scoot over.
Not too many people playing footsie from driver's seat to passenger seat.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
no, you need to keep your footsie on that accelerator.
Yeah,
It is a BMW. You guys are talking about the styling and whatnot. To me, the only things that I really absolutely dislike, number one, I don't understand why there's a piece of wood in this car. There's nothing here that tells me I need wood, so I would not have that. Second, I hate the start button. Why do I need that? I walk up to every other car and it goes. That start button's got to go. And I really don't like the little shifter where it is. I think that they could have done a better job there, and that's where I want to have my cup holder, not there. I don't know. There's a couple of things here that outside the outside of this car I love a lot. Inside, and I have like issue after issue. I do like the twin screen thing here. That works out quite well when you're driving, and this car does drive well. I mean, just like a laser beam driving. It's very, 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 very accurate. But as far as their moving into ADAS, they got a long ways to go.
I guess the one last nitpick of this that I have has to do with that. You can leave it open. The disconnections that are occurring on the exterior is the variation in patterns on the interior. So the speaker grill is this faded triangle. It's cool, it's technical, Bowers & Wilkins. It's nice to have premium sound. Then you jump over to the IP. On the suede material, you have the same faded triangle pattern. And then maybe there's a speaker embedded in here. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like there is. But there is this detail of the center subwoofer and another speaker that then brings in a hexagon pattern again. So you just have this jump from material and function to a different material and different function, or different material and the same function. And it's hard to find the logic of that.
Yeah, so I was picking up all of those triangles. We have the faded triangle on the grille. We have the triangles on these corner details. We have the triangular pattern in the decorative stitching on the seat. But then you go back to the hexagons on the carbon fiber. So it is kind of a mix match.
We can probably start in the frunk, perhaps, since we're moving from one of the two cars here that doesn't have a frunk.
Yeah.
We've got that open here. Nice little transition panels. They're carrying in, just as much attention to detail with the surfacing sculpture from the headlamp into the enclosure here. It's deep. It's got some versatility going on here with the movable shelf. Another drain situation. They're keeping that up with magnets. No awkward latches. It's good. I suppose it could have been somewhat improved with front access like we're getting on the F-150. Obviously, it's really easy to get stuff into that. But from
a very high bar here.
Exactly, yeah. Fine for us, but
Well,
when you get into the 5th percentile, that becomes a problem.
there's a reason for that. This is absolutely 100% fabulous for bringing home groceries. Usually we just have it like that, and nothing ever flies around. I have a whole great big giant pickup truck rear end that I've never been able to completely use. So to me, or to Sue and I, this is a really functional the way it is. I probably don't think I would even need something else, but if you've got something deep that goes inside and it's awkward, this really works out well. You can drop it in there and it's not going to fall back out on you. For the 150 though, the guys who have to work for a living, not buying groceries and whatnot, but work for a living, they love this. This is absolutely brilliant. But for here, Sue and I both think that is just fine the way it is.
Yeah.
And that was a debate that I had. You have a rear cargo. So if you're a truck buyer, that is your dirty, getting rained on, beat up storage. What you don't normally have in a truck is a nice enclosed cargo area like you would in a sedan or an SUV.
Yes.
So for me, this is the best of both worlds. I have the nice clean area. My luggage going to the airport is going to be in here. You're putting your groceries in here, the stuff that you're protecting. This, you have the possibility of things shifting around while driving, smacking into the front end, possibly falling out.
Yeah.
But we can get into that one later. But yeah, I do like the fact of having that clean side, which is more reminiscent of a trunk or rear cargo area in an SUV, while still having the I'm getting dirty, getting rained on side.
I think that's perfect for this truck being like an active lifestyle truck and not a work truck. No one is, well, maybe the boss is going to the work site in this, but this is really your work truck. And even at my time in CCS, all these students and all the innovators are looking to totally open up the truck if they can. If you gave this to a student, they'd probably just cut a hole in the firewall so you could put like a 20-foot ladder through the whole thing.
What's the name of the company that does that?
Bollinger?
Bollinger, yeah.
Right.
They had one that went all the way through.
Exactly, but that's fringe. How many have they made of those?
Actually, they're making something else now. They've gone away from the pickup truck. They've got some sort of a contract with somebody else. I can't remember. It's one of the delivery things. But you know what's good about this? Okay, so I, at one time, believe it or not, used to work for a living. And I'm carrying, a couple of 40-pound bags of cement because your boss doesn't want you to go empty-handed, right? And you go up here, clunk. It's the right height.
Yeah.
This is the perfect height for a working man.
Yeah.
I don't know what GM is going to put out, or anybody else for that matter, but I'll tell you what, as somebody who had to work for a living, I'd have loved to have something like this, because it's just a little bit lower than the tailgate.
Yep.
And I can drop this stuff in, and I can't remember how many, I think it's 400 pounds or something like that. A ridiculous amount of weight that I can stick in there, and that, to me, concrete bags, perfect, right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just at a home improvement store buying one piece of siding, and the guy next to me was also buying one piece of siding. It was hilarious. But he had a truck with just a 5-6 foot bed.
Yeah.
So he was out there with a pair of tin snips, cutting the piece just to the size that he needed so that he could fit it in the back of his truck. It fit in my Cadillac, and I could close the whole rear hatch.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, what's more utility, in my Cadillac or your truck? I was just laughing. I like that. I really like that idea of a pass-through, and honestly, you might be able to do it with an electric vehicle like this. So when you had asked about which one is your favorite on the exterior, now we're talking about which one is our favorite on the interior, I would pick Rivian for my favorite for the interior. Now it has the most stylized surfaces. They stylized everything in here. So it is beautiful. However, as you mentioned, is Rivian going to be able to make money? With a lot of the choices that they made on this interior, I would say no, they're not going to be able to make money due to the compounding issues with a lot of these decisions.
Isn't that what the Amazon van is for? The
Yeah,
money making?
that is the truth. And quite frankly, our job is we do anything at Munro below the skin. We do not style. Although in this car, we may have to change a little styling, but we've torn this thing to pieces, and there is a lot of money that could come out, a lot of money and a lot of weight without too much work. And I believe that the next kick at the cat, they'll get rid of that redundancies everywhere in here as far as structure is concerned. So get rid of that, make it easier to put together, and you can hit your target price and actually make money at it, but not right now.
So we have done a review of this interior, but having you here, it's great to have another look. In looking at the door, what would you say about all of the different layering that we're seeing in the door, between wrapped to wood grain to wrap to plastic? There are a lot of different things coming together, and sometimes if you step back and look at the whole, it's like, okay, that's stylish, but also seems somewhat inconsistent.
I wouldn't label this inconsistent. I think it's got its theme, and a big part of that is the premium nature of it. I think, again, this is not your work truck. I keep relating this to a Range Rover pickup, an electric Range Rover pickup. I mean, little things like this are super cool with removable flashlight right in the door, a little bit like the umbrella in, what is it, the Rolls Royce?
Yeah.
But from a stylistic standpoint, I have no problem. Actually, I'm a little excited that they executed this, because that layering and the overlay of materials, the lighting in there is all something that designers want to get into products, and not all manufacturers are willing to pay the price for those features.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The stitching and whatnot. So my wife is an interiors kind of person as well as Carl. But to me, all I know is those French stitches and whatnot. They're straight as a die. I don't know who did the interior components, but I'm telling you, they did a hell of a job, because all these different compounding angles and curves and whatnot. Oh,
Patterning that is a chore. And we did see that for your Rivian. All these seams looked great. For the one that we tore down, they had some problems. So that was probably a little bit later in production. Maybe they did not have as detailed of an eye. But I mean, just because of the way they did their layering, in order to pattern those different shapes, it takes an artist to come up with that pattern, but then it takes some very consistent operators to be able to cut, sew, wrap those things to have that consistency. And it's like, are you paying for those operators? And how long are you going to pay for those operators for?
I'm wondering if some of this, especially in here, I'm wondering if some of that could be done automated. I know that we did some things in the past with automated stitching, but I've never seen anything like that.
There's some different things, not as much for stitching. Automated join sew is very difficult to do. There's one sewing machine company, the Vitron Auto Sew, where they could do join sews automatic, but it was only for very basic shapes. Now, automated pressing and wrapping, however, this upper portion, almost. The only thing that really messes you up is this side seam, because that side seam is a critical position, so this has to be set by an operator. This you can set with a seam blade, but then you can have a press that comes in, clamps over, and automatically wraps and presses this part. So this piece could be a hybrid between a manual operation and a automatic operation. Unfortunately, this one is pretty much only going to be manual, just because this seam almost completely wraps the part. Trying to get a machine to set both of those would be very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't we move on to the IP and stuff
Yeah,
like that?
actually,
What do you think?
that would be perfect. And to bring up the one of the points we left off with on the IX and the flat floor, obviously we're dealing with a skateboard chassis with this too, and you can see basically exactly what I was talking about here with some kind of divider panel. It keeps stuff from rolling into the ever important pedal area for the driver, and it just gives you a place to put stuff. Even though it's not, I can still obviously get my leg over this and slide over if I really wanted to. It's open enough, but adds an element of utility that is just meaningful. Obviously, this has all the cool little features, the Bluetooth radio that pops out here. This is what I'm talking about with the industrial design, the features that are baked into this thing that no one else seems to want to go through the trouble of executing. So, I mean, this is a product in and of itself, and to fit it in to the car is a nice feature. Probably the only thing that bugs me a little bit about the interior here is how this wood sort of waterfalls down. I feel like it just would have been a little simpler, and maybe some people would have thought it was boring if this just went all the way across behind the screen. Maybe the screen would have been, half an inch farther into the IP, or into the cabin.
So I've talked quite a bit about the wood on this vehicle, and I do like wood grain, and I like open pore matte finish wood grain in vehicles. My only problem here is the shape that they came up with. Trying to take that flat organic material of the wood and turn it into that complex shape causes issues in the manufacturing process. So yeah, if they would have simplified that wood a little bit more to make it a more uniform flat shape, that would be fine for me. It still gives me the wood look, because that compound curvature causes a lot of problems with wood veneer.
And this is a veneer. This is, I believe what they were going for, and what it seems they accomplished, is a milled from a block appearance,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Even if it was going after a molded plywood, I think there's some nice cues to, some of the best mid-century furniture out there of, again, molded plywood, and some of the amazing shapes that are simple and elegant, not overly luxurious, but just mature. And I think they brought a lot of that into this, and I think that's how they just hit the mark with a premium product.
So one of the things that I've been looking at lately, or hearing lately, is people have got, a couple of kids, and then they inherit others for driving back and forth to school. And one of the ladies that I know who has kids said, well, why can't we have another seat in the middle? And I said, well, that's called a bench seat. And she said, well, yeah, why don't we got them in the back, why can't we have them in the front, and then I can get all the kids in the car? What do you think the chances that anybody is going to go back to a bench seat, even if it's like 1/3, 2/3 type that some you have for fold down and whatnot? would that be something that maybe a lower end vehicle, because you save a lot of money with a bench seat versus bucket seats?
Airbag issue. So when we first were developing airbags, we were always talking about head-on crashes. And a head-on crash, all right, you're always going forward. You're hitting this bag. Well, then it came up to, oh, what about the 40% offset, 20% offset? When you hit on a 20% offset, the vehicle rotates around your own body. So the occupant pretty much continues moving forward while the vehicle rotates. You hit the A-pillar. So we had a lot of issues where people were actually skidding off their airbag and then smacking into the gap. If you had a center seat, basically you're in the gap automatically. I don't know what we would have to do for airbag safety if we had a center seat.
Well, you got it in the back seat already. You could have a curtain come down in the front. And there's another thing too. Airbags, I think, are going to be obsolete in about 10 years. Because with self-driving vehicles, I don't need them. And with crash avoidance, again, I don't need them. So I think that there's going to be some things that are going to change.
I think as we see an increase in, or the progression of autonomy, I mean, part of this, personally, I feel is being driven from the automotive industry, partially from a liability standpoint. As you said, if individuals aren't driving cars anymore, the liability comes off of the individual. It does go into the corporation, I guess, to make it a safe driving vehicle. You need to, do the millions of hours of testing that is currently happening. Point being, if we get into this like campfire seating, literally a backward facing front seat, so that you're all facing each other like a booth in a train car, that's when you would absolutely be seeing a front bench. It's just a backwards front bench.
Yeah.
And some people right now, as we're going through this talk, are going to ask, how are vehicles changing for electrification? And there are some changes, but the major changes would come with full self-driving.
Yeah.
I mean, with full self-driving, you no longer have a driver's seat, you have an owner's seat. Which seat is the owner's seat? Which one are you the most comfortable in? How do you access whatever controls that you have? Do you have to have control access from every seating position? That's a whole nother discussion. But I really do see that once we talk about real changes, it's not really just electrification, it's due to self-driving.
Yeah. Well, let's go on. We're never going to get through here. So let's go on to the Lightning.
This would be a good time to visit this older F-250 over here too. You want to talk about bench seats.
Well, yeah, there you are.
Yeah. Is this a 250 or a 150? 250. Yeah, it's a 250. But yeah, simple. I mean, just as simple as you can possibly make it. Nice open bench seat. Sure, you've got the hump in the floor for the probably cast iron transmission. But as I said, open as possible. No sideways support, but this isn't a sports car.
So in trying to have comfort across the seat, of course, this is a seat that is foam and springs. We don't have springs anymore in our seats. So if we wanted a bench, would it just be a big chunk of foam like the rear seat, or would we have to bring in more comfortable suspension if that is the driver's seat as well?
Well, memory foam might be one answer. Your bed really doesn't have springs anymore in it either. So EPP for the foundation and what do you call it? Memory foam for where you actually sit. That would be great. But anyway, let's adjourn. I'm sorry I brought that up. And let's jump into the Lightning.
Yeah.
So I will tell you one thing, the only thing I really care about. I like comfortable seats. The Rivian has a comfortable seat for me. I wasn't that big on the BMW, but I love this seat. I've been driving this a little bit now. I don't get much of a chance because Andrew and the boys, they seem to be getting this an awful lot more than I do. I wanted to do actually some off-roading in this, and sorry it's busy, sorry it's already taken, sorry, I don't care what your name's on the door, it doesn't matter, we're taking it. So so I think the seats in here are just to die for. I really like the seating in here.
The seat was comfortable for me. I drove it here today. What I did not like, however, was the door armrests. This armrest was too low for my seating position. So I was basically using this top roll. This top roll is not really padded at all. That was the only real criticism other than the regenerative braking, which I did not like. I like to coast. But the door armrest position just seemed odd for me.
Oh, it's perfect for me. I think you're just too tall.
Okay.
There's people that can saw your legs and shrink if you. Well,
True.
just I don't want to get into that either. Yeah.
I'll take the shins. For me, I have a little bit of the opposite effect where I feel like a child in this. It's but you know, it's a large truck. I do have to point out that I think the proliferation of the pickup in America had a lot to do with people's desire for wide cars. And you just don't get that in today's sedans, whether they're electric or not. I think there's some 60s cars in here that are perfect demonstrations of this, and the F-250 is a good example, but that's still a truck. Point being, it's a full 6 feet plus inside, and you just don't feel cramped side to side. The height has its advantages, but the feeling of comfort and spaciousness inside is just pickups have it in spades. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was a big driver of what people are looking for. Anyway, from a design review of this, I big fan of the aesthetic in here. The similarities actually between the Mach-E and the F-150 screen are nice to see. It's good to have that commonality. This vehicle is pretty chock full of utility features, whether it's any of the measurement devices, like in the. There's a ruler printed onto the divider in the frunk. There's all kinds of stuff throughout.
Do you have any questions on the use of both bright chrome and the brushed bronze chrome?
Like
side
this?
by side.
Yeah, sure, I could definitely pick that apart. And as you pointed out, this screen printed wood pattern occurs a little spot on the door, a little spot on the center console, and another little spot on the other door, and another like coaster size occurrence on the back. I think some of these details lose themselves a little bit, and then again, as you said, you've got bronze and then gunmetal. At least they're both brushed. I don't know. I think from a sculptural standpoint, this is great, but maybe from a color and materials, it could use a little further refinement. Yeah, again, nice usability and just large storage areas everywhere. It's the electric F-150. I don't think there's anything in particular on the interior that screams lightning to me, as you were pointing out about the vinyl graphic on the exterior, if there was such a thing.
I think that's kind of the point of this vehicle. Is this is the exact same interior that you can get in a regular F-150. So you have a lot of consistency.
Well, if it was up to me, I'd get rid of that right off the bat.
The shifter?
There's no reason for it. I'd get rid of that start button. I'd want to have. This is a desk. You can push the. What do you call it down? No,
this.
Yeah, it's got a little.
Activate.
Push
it's right
that
here.
button right
Yep.
there. Here you go.
Okay, it's powered.
Okay, so anyway, and then you can flip the desk up the other way. Well, that's just for travel, but
I
flip
see.
it this
and
way.
Then this way.
And
There
now
we
I've
go.
got a desk, and I like that.
That is nice.
I'd like to have that available to me all the time, and I'd like to have it in two positions. One like that, and then one clicked up so that I can put my own computer on it if I'm driving and whatnot, and doing whatever I want to do.
Yeah, pickup trucks have become a statement piece. And the levels of luxury that you can get now are just through the roof.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Onto
look
the
at the other
Mach-E.
Ford. Yeah. So we already talked about the frunk here. One step better than the Tesla because it's got a drain plug.
That's right. Yeah, takes a little cue from the F-150 also has that. So first of all, just to open up the doors, we didn't really talk about the door handles on the exterior video, but really simple, just little push button and then pull with this little,
So that is
little
cast.
wing.
That seems funny to me to have such a heavy cast part for that little pull, but they determined it was necessary.
Well, you want it to last, and I almost wondered if they pulled in some lessons learned from the Continental with those side trim door handles on the exterior. Not exactly the same feature, but still innovative. Like they're trying something new, and I appreciate that.
Oh, I love this. That function to me was one of the first things that I commented on when this thing showed up. I said, "Oh, look at that! Everybody's figured out a clever way to have door handles. These guys they eliminated them."
Yeah.
And I like the rear even better.
Yep.
It doesn't have that. It doesn't have that extra thing. It just pushes the door open.
Yep.
I get rid of the little pull completely. I don't think it should be there. I think it should have just the same as the rear door.
But anyway, on the interior, the first thing I noticed is the sill going away with the door, something that has been brought in since the Taurus. I don't remember the body code for that, but shaves away a lot of the width, so you get a wider car, but a narrower opening, so it's easier to get in and out. You have that element of sport with, it's not just a floor that cascades down. You have this raised sill, which, again, I associate with like a sporty car. Again, with the comparison of the C4 Corvette that has like an extremely high door sill. On the IP design, this is a good time again to compare to the 65 behind the car here with these double brows. Really minimal gauge cluster here, fully digital. Basically looks like a long phone showing all your information. But these double humps, it's just a really nice way to modernize that. Cool choice of materials. The Bowers & Wilkins sound system in here. The little pin on the, Bang & Olufsen. Scratch that. So just hiding the speaker, behind this nice textile is a nice feature. As I pointed out before, same screen as the F-150 more or less, and a higher console. So even though, again, you have what could have been a pass-through, they've put this two-tier storage solution in here to create a little bit of a center console where maybe there wouldn't have been one necessarily. But you have that slightly more sunken in feeling that you get from a sports car. All these cars have pretty small wheels. I think, as we work on having electric assist steering, efforts can really be dialed in so you don't have to take up a bunch of room with a huge steering wheel on the interior. So from an ergonomic standpoint, that's an improvement, just because you have more space to move around and it's easier to get in and out. As you pointed out with if you don't have a flat bottom steering wheel, you can still easily slide in and out of the seat. Anything stand out to you on this, Carl?
So I was not working with Munro when they received their Mach-E that they tore down. I saw the individual components that I worked on later on. So basically today was my first time seeing this. The suede seating surface, that's debatable. Normally suede is very hard to clean, spill things on it. I normally prefer leather myself, but that's a personal choice. The matte look of the suede material, it's great. It really is. It breaks up the look on the doors and also on the seating. I like this. I said that I liked the interior of the Rivian. I said that I liked the exterior of the BMW. But if I wanted one for a car that I would probably actually buy, it would get closer to this vehicle.
I guess we can pop over the 65 real quick to show that double hump, just to remind anyone who's not super familiar. As simple of a cue as that is, it's important that they still tried to carry that through into the new one. From a brand identity and continuation of the design, an evolution of it.
So now we go to the car I know nothing about.
Yeah, the Hyundai. Well, the technology theme continues into the interior for sure. Some of the things that I love about this car are the linearity of the interior. There's the theme from the exterior carries right into here, no problem, including the lightness of certain things, like the bright silver trim. It's very rare to see the same trim on the interior as on the exterior, and you get that here with some of the switches, including on the door. That was another thing that I found weird about the BMWs, that you had silver buttons, diamond buttons, or crystal buttons, and then also black buttons. So at least here, they're all silver. Like the things that you're touching primarily are silver, maybe with the exception of parking and auto hold for hills and the start button. So the screens, I like that they're focusing on, these are two different screens. You actually have this little white divider in the middle. They're not trying to lie that, like, yeah, this is all one screen, when in reality, it's two screens. So, yeah, I think it's cool material matches. I believe this is a speaker, but I can't tell you 100%. It's the only reason I would think to put fabric over something.
Well, that's the first thing that caught my eye when I looked at it. I had no clue what the heck that was and why it was there. Mm-hmm. And why, I mean, this is all rounded and whatnot. Why did they just continue it around and call it a day, and whatever that is, they could get rid of it?
Yeah, I think just keeping the instrument panel, the display panel, as wide as possible was probably just a stylistic decision, because sure, I can see whatever is behind here could have gone into the IP itself, but just keeping that width was a nice decision.
So you're saying very linear design with the IP. If you were to close the door, what type of flow through do you get from the door to the IP, or are they mostly separated?
It looks like we have a good intersection here with the IP flowing over here. Relatively consistent gap, in my opinion. It looks like designed. I like that they're two different materials, so it's not like you're trying to match it up one-to-one.
Yeah, but I mean, looking that from the side, we have that angle design coming between the door and the IP. Yeah. We have the angle itself creating the flow through, but you could be off in your build quality and it would be hidden based on that separation.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really clever because of that angle. If you might have to scoot in here. The angle on the speaker cover down here is it's the same angle as on the top of the IP. So what Carl's saying is you can put the door, I mean, the door could slide forward and aft a half an inch and the angle would be the same. So it doesn't really matter whether it's aligned or not.
So I don't do too much styling, but I do know the difference between a style line and a beauty line, and that's a beauty line. It's your eye is not attracted directly to it. And I like the clean design. Yep. There's a million buttons here. I have no clue how the heck you'd ever
a little different
determine what.
Yeah, it's different from the Tesla in that there are actual buttons on this car. Yeah. It's a little more traditional. It's traditional but transitional with, again, the number of buttons. I would almost relate some of this linearity to some of the nicer Lexuses that I've seen, like the LC500, one of my favorite interiors going on right now. Again, lots of linearity and simple vent designs.
Look at that.
The flat bottom steering wheel,
Yeah,
it's cool.
telling you, it's coming in.
Yeah, and I think it fits really well on this car. If these were parked right next to each other, you would see the iX is about a foot taller than this. Maybe that's an exaggeration, 8 inches or so. But this flat bottom steering wheel feels like it fits better in this car to me, just because it has the essence of being a compact car. It's really not a compact car. It like if you parked an 80s Golf next to this thing, it would be a Hulk.
Yeah.
But
oh, there we go. The flat bottom steering wheels make the rock and roll go around, isn't
yeah.
it? Something like that.
I don't
know.
like the fake seam on the door upper.
This guy right here.
Yes. So this is a in-mold grain thermoformed part, and they have this fake seam set into the in-mold grain. Now, in general, I don't mind this approach. It's a way to give an essence of luxury to a lower-end vehicle. What I don't like is right here. You can clearly see that this is not a real seam. It's completely fake. So if you were to do this, you do have to finish it off somewhat different, so at least you can kind of trick the customer. You're not trying to trick anybody. You're just saying, we gave you a fake seam. We didn't give you a seam.
Yeah, I almost wonder if that's a decision of honesty with just ending it like that. Like if it did go around the corner, could that have been executed as well as this? Who knows? I think they do have some cool other textiles. I mean, not what I would call a premium decision, but it creates texture. You also have the same icon as in the lamps with the little squares running across there, and that's also brought into the seats here, which is a cool, they stopped the perforation for these little square patterns. You might want to pop around to the DRLs for a second, really get a feel for that digital element. It's just a bunch of cubes. So when I was talking about the consistency of the theme, this car definitely has that in spades. I think we can probably move on to the Model 3.
Does the child seat come standard? We've borrowed Jordan's Model 3 for our review today.
Oh, good. Let's go take it for a race ride. Yeah. Oh, it's even got a child seat. Oh, very good.
So when you want to talk simple as possible, this is it. I guess it's just as polarizing as the iX in its simplicity. You know, they tried to focus all of the controls, as many as they legally could or practically could, into the screen. This one does not have the yoke steering wheel. Who knows, maybe his next one will. You want to talk about a flat steering wheel, that's a real one, but that'll be for another video. I mean, the IP in general takes on tones of almost a musical instrument, like a piano cover or something. You know, it's so simple. It's just one piece of wood going straight across, one piece of leather. The vent design on this, I mean, there's no adjustable vents. It's all done internally, all to save, well, you can say that it's done to save from making those individual vent parts, but it could just as easily be a stylistic decision. Again, just to clean everything up. I mean, you almost feel like you're in a Dragon capsule with this thing. It's just so clean
when you say
inside.
clean everything up, when someone looks at it, they honestly understand what you mean. How we have all those linear lines, how we have all those flat surfaces, how they've eliminated all the buttons. So in my mind, I look at this design as being someone hitting the reset button. Everything that we've done with style, all of the chrome trim that we would put around the air vents. I worked with some designers that if you told them they had to have a feature, they would say, fine, I have to stylize that feature, and they would build and build and build. So some of the times we would go crazy with the stuff that we put into here. This is someone hitting the reset button saying, all right, let's go back, let's clear the slate, Now let's build from here. And that goes back in my mind to what we're talking about, when I said the Model T earlier for the exterior design. Even between the models, this look of the interior is common through all of Tesla's models as well. So it is a clean slate, and it is a common execution across the brand. Now, whether that style is the style of choice for the most customers or for a segment of customers, that's a question that the market will tell once we have more of these electric vehicles in the market.
Personally, I think that the reset button is a really good choice of words. For me, I absolutely love this. I love the clean lines. I could never understand why we had so many damn buttons. I like, we didn't talk about, but the wheel controllers. I like the fact that my Prindle is in the steering column. Like, okay, that goes back a million years. I mean, what was it, 3 on the tree or something? I can't remember what the terms were, but all these things, they've looked at them carefully and decided, well, you know, that was a good idea. Let's keep it. Well, that's junk. Let's get rid of it. And they got rid of more than they kept. And I will tell you, without a question of a doubt, I've traveled, I traveled with Corey in 11 days, 8,500 miles in one of these. I had no back pain, none whatsoever. People say, well, why do you wear cowboy boots? Because it keeps me from getting back pain if I'm standing up too long. So we've been standing up for a long time. And I wanted to get into this car and sit down because even though it doesn't have a massager, I don't know how they calculated their G points or whatever, but my back is feeling good already. And 8,500 miles in 11 days, I should have been in a hospital. I should have been crippled for life maybe. But this car, I mean, they're the first ones out. They did screens first before anybody else. They've broken the ground on pretty much everything and hit a reset button, basically the Ice Age. They're the reason that the Ice Age is pretty much over. They melted it.
Yeah, that was his whole goal with setting all this. Whether he stayed on top or not, he just wanted to incite progress in the automotive industry.
Well,
So
I'll tell you,
that's been done.
I feel the same way. I think that the reason that I'm really happy and proud of Munro Live isn't because we got a lot of subscribers or what have you, but the fact that it's brought the electric car to the into the purview of more than just a few folks in California. So all of a sudden things are really happening. Like this was the magic year. I said that once we hit 5%, that'll be the tipping point. That'll be the watershed. That watershed time when the scale starts to move. So next year, after this year we're at 6, probably, or sorry, 5+. I don't know where it'll end up, but next year it'll be 10. And I think what's going to happen is that folks are going to be clamoring for these cars, and that's why Elon Musk can say, okay, we got the 1 gigafactory down here in Austin, and we've got the California factory. But in his shareholders thing, he said, oh, where should we build the next one? Holy mackerel. He's got 2 of these things on the go already in Shanghai and in what do you call it? Berlin. And now he's saying, where should we build the next one? Who does that? I mean, how many car companies are out there doing that kind of stuff? Most of them are shutting things down or trying to figure out, I mean, what are you going to do with all those engines and transmission plants? Certainly they're going to shut down real fast, like not tomorrow. But once you hit, so I think that next year will be 10%. I think the year after that it's going to be 20%. But I'm not a stylist and I'm not an interiors person, but I loved this from day one. Really did. Yeah. We pretty much hammered home that this is the original. That's the original frunk. And that's, Corey and I, we lived for, basically 2 weeks on the road. All our bags, all our food, our ice chest, we used to be up in the front. I mean, we did that, and we had to have summertime clothes because we went to California, and we had to have really cold weather clothes because we were originally going to cross right along the border to do cold weather testing, until Elon said, "Hey, want to come down to Texas?" Sure. Change of plans. So we had this thing filled up, and I'm telling you, it was marvelous. I can't imagine going on a long time, like a long trip with any other sedan, period. Not after this thing.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'll let you start there, Carl.
So when we're considering the interiors for vehicles, an interior can be universal. It doesn't have to be for an electric vehicle, gas vehicle. There are a lot of similarities. There are some differences, however, that we can incorporate. But it's more than just having an interior that is the same for a gas or an electric vehicle. It's that we have a change in era of cars. Really exemplified by that Tesla. It is a change in era. It is a reset. So we can change the way these interiors are being used. We can change the expectation that we have from our interiors. So we have the choice. Do we want the bling? Do we want the simplicity? What really matters? Is it the usability? For me, it is comfort. I want to be comfortable. I have a long drive, and that's what matters most to me.
Okay. I would say, since this is kind of a transitional period, and we talked in the last video about how this is kind of the end of the early adopter part of the EV market, at least for interiors, as people are buying these, I think there's new incentive for automakers to reward people for buying these with the level of features that we've talked about today. So while comfort kind of should be granted, honestly, from an ergonomic standpoint, the number of features are really something that I've latched onto, and I think that's going to set these apart from the normal status quo of auto interiors up to this point, maybe for the last 15 years or something. So I am seeing a lot of pushes and strong innovations, whether it's in material choices like in the BMW, very bold choices there, or overall stylistic choices like the Tesla or even the Hyundai. So I think it's a great time to be in an EV. That's all I can say. Yeah.
I couldn't say this better. I personally am a comfort kind of guy. I'm also a simplicity kind of guy. I don't like buttons and stuff like that. I had lots of problems when I was trying to sort out different designs in cars, and a lot of them came down to buttons and switches. So going to a screen like in the Tesla makes me happy. The less buttons, the better, as far as I'm concerned. From a comfort standpoint, okay, the BMW was okay. My Rivian was better. The F-150 is as good as a Rivian as far as I'm concerned, as far as comfort and whatnot is concerned. But that one, I don't know. I don't know how to beat the seat. If I was a seat engineer, that's the seat I'd copy. I would find out what they did to make that happen, and then I would copy it everywhere. I think that this is an exciting time. I wished I was younger. I mean, in the next 10, 15 years, we're gonna see everything go topsy-turvy. It's gonna be totally different than what we've seen in the last 120 years. With all the different innovations, people are sending me continuously, oh, have you seen this kind of battery or that type of battery? Or have you heard, like list wire? I would have never guessed that we're going to be making motors out of list wires, costly and whatever. But you know what? It gives you more power. So I see more power coming out of these motors, which will probably make them smaller. I just need to have I need the amount of power that I need to turn the wheels. And if I can make a smaller motor using some other new technology, then fine, so be it. It just gives me less weight equals more, more range. So for me, this is a great time to be in the auto world, and I'm happy that that we get a chance to look at. I mean, these are 6 pretty much totally different products. They're not the same. Each one's got its own little niche, and I think that that's going to be coming along even more. So yeah, you might want to come down and have a look at GR down here. There's plenty of cars to choose from, and I was shocked at how sometimes the prices, how low some of the prices are. So anyway, thanks for watching Munro Live. Thank you guys for coming down to give you all your opinions, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you liked what you saw. Thanks so much. Bye.